Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here in the studio today with founder and editor Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Well, I'm getting better. Thank you for asking.
Yes, well, one of the great things about this, we should do a different show and call it Old People Dealing with Technology. And people
Yeah.
can just sit and laugh at us having our struggles
Yes.
as we
Yes.
try to get ready for this. Um,
So,
anyways,
so the lead story on the website had a page that was wrong. So, it took me 20 minutes to fix what should have been a 2-minute problem. But
yeah, well, that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes things happen, right? Well, anyways, so we're going to start off today by talking about this article from The Driven, an Australian website. And their
uh,
headline is Electric Vehicles Will Crush Fossil Cars on Price as Lithium and Battery Prices Fall. Now, what they're also not mentioning is gigacasting. So I think this
yeah,
is
that's pretty much the purview of
Yeah, right now, well, it's Tesla and it's going to be GM as well, since
yeah.
GM bought that company that makes the Gigacasters. But basically, the gist of the story is BYD just launched a $15,000 Corolla
Corolla
killer.
pillow.
Yeah, so the Toyota Corolla used to be the number one best-selling car in the world. It's currently
Yeah.
number two behind the Tesla Model Y. And BYD's put out this $15,000 car, and it's not available in the United States, mind you, but it's available in probably 60 or 80 countries, and it's certainly available in Europe. And with the world's largest EV battery maker recently announced it's on track to cut battery costs in half this year. New research suggests a decline in EV prices may be happening faster than thought. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting because we always hear this that EVs are too expensive. Well, the average price of an EV sold in the United States is far above the average because we've had a lot of early adopters, and they tend to be people that own multiple cars and tend to be people that might be in technology already and have been
Yep.
attracted to the high-tech Tesla cars, which are more than just an EV. They also are big on technology. Now, analysts think that ICE cars makers are in for a rude shock as EV prices come in below existing petrol and diesel models at the lower end of the market, because this hasn't been the case. But now, even here in the United States, we're going to see that VinFast VF3 come out soon. That's going to be $20,000 without the federal tax credits. Might be eligible for California credits and maybe some
Hmm.
Colorado credits, but at the moment, um, that is, going to be, you know, something that will really hit the market. Anyways, let's see. And EVs have been more expensive than their ICE equivalent, particularly below $40,000. That being true, and I know you can't get the Chevy Bolt right now, but you will be able to again soon. But with the federal tax credit, they're under $19,000. So when they come back out later this year, that's for the base model. And that's provided
Yeah.
you can find a dealer who will sell it to you for that price.
Well, then
You know,
I guess that's assuming that GM can fire that production line back up again. The thing is that there's a and I, should I be promoting somebody else's YouTube channel? Yeah,
I don't care.
there's a one called Brighter, and it's a guy named Herb Ong, and I
Mhm.
discovered him recently, and he has had some really, really fascinating people who are delving deep into the economics of manufacturing and selling electric vehicles, and there's some really eye-opening things that and of course confirmed by on the engineering side by Sandy Monroe over Monroe Associates is that this is the OEMs, the Fords and the General Motors and the Stellantis, used to be Chrysler, and so on, are going to be in for a rude awakening, and Tesla's the one leading that charge. They have got, of course, it's taken them a while, but they have really got their stuff together, to use a least offensive term. But
Right.
it's it this game is changing, and the legacy OEMs are going to have an extremely difficult time dealing with it.
Yeah, I hear other people telling me about how EVs are a scam and they're going away and all this, and it's like, you just don't know
Don't they
what's
don't get it?
going on in the world.
No, no, they're stuck in. Well, hell, it's been around for us, all of our lifetime. You
Right.
know, we don't know anything better but a clutch and a gear shift and a 12-volt battery and a motor that chucks and stuff out the tailpipe. We don't know anything different. That's what we've grown up with as kids. That's what our toys were all built around and everything.
Right.
And now this is paradigm changing time. This is almost like, to pick up the thread we had the last time. This is almost like that UFO sitting down on the White House lawn, right?
Yes.
Paradigm change. That's what's happening with EVs. This is such a it goes from here to the grocery store, from here to where you work, from here to school, from here to grandma's store, right? Grandma's house. But there the similarity ends, because all of that technology and how it's powered and that just the systems that are involved in that is so different that the legacy car makers, they've done a fantastic job for a century. Catching up is going to be really, really hard for them. And all you got to do is, watch them in the interviews that Herbert did recently with Jeff Lutz and Larry Goldberg and Sandy Munro, and puts a whole new spin on what's happening in the car industry worldwide.
Oh, there's no question. No question. Our next article I want to talk about just a little bit was that right now here in the United States, most EV buyers are taking their tax credit as down payment on the cars. And that is like,
Why wouldn't you?
right. No, I know, but it makes it a whole lot easier to get into a car when you've got a $7,500 tax credit, to put down on it, whether or not you have a trade-in or not. Makes it just a whole lot simpler. And of course, it's still limited. It keeps the tax credits keep being applicable on less and less cars, but it's interesting because in previous years you had to wait and claim the tax rebate on your own taxes, and now you're getting it up front.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm not sure how they're doing the $4,000 one on the used cars. It's a challenge to find it on the used cars because a lot of the used EVs are still over that price. Did I tell you about what I saw on the, what is it, the Subaru Solterra and the Toyota BusyForks? They're basically the same car, right?
Right.
And right now you can buy some that are 1 year old or less with under 10,000 miles on them for more than a third. Yeah, more than a third off of the list price.
Wow.
Yeah, now of course we had all that stuff with Tesla pushing down prices,
Right.
but you can. I've seen some with as little as 2,000 miles on them, going for below 35,000 when they were $50,000 new.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's really there's some deals to be had there, but you don't get any tax credits on that, But that's
No.
okay. I mean, it's a really good price with no tax credits.
Unless you can
But
figure out somebody to buy it and then you lease it, whatever.
yeah, well, I don't know that you can. I don't know if you do leases on used cars or not.
That's a good question. I don't know either.
I've always assumed leasing was only for new cars.
Yeah.
But anyways, here's something kind of interesting. So Texas shatters its own solar power record.
Yeah.
And this is kind of interesting because you get all this stuff and, we talk about green energy and what's going on, but they've really put a lot of wind and solar online. And Texas was the original state to do wind. They were the first state there was investment of wind. In 22, Texas generated
wide open spaces out there. If you've ever driven through West Texas, it goes on and on and on and on.
Oh, I went to college in Houston for a year, and it never seemed like you could get out of the state. It took forever to get from Houston to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That was probably half the drive to North Dakota was just
Just getting out of
going
Texas.
there, just getting out
Yeah.
of Texas. Yeah. Texas in 2022 generated 26% of all US wind sourced electricity, leading the nation for 17 years in a row.
Well,
Wind surpassed nuclear in 2014.
yeah, the interesting thing is now I think there's a bill being created to bring them back into the national grid system.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yeah,
Because
that'll be interesting to see what happens there because they didn't want to be a part of no federal system, and now they've had so much turmoil and so many problems with their grid that they said, well, maybe we should become a part of the whole national grid, and then we don't have to depend as much on ourselves. We can depend on our neighbors. So I don't know because our Southwest Power Pool actually goes down there and touches that area, and I don't know if I I don't know if I well if we get some of that wind, and solar, that's fine. But
no, I understand, but yeah, you would think with as much power as they have coming online, they'd be sending power out to surrounding states.
oh yeah,
So this is a big jump here. Texas grid recorded a solar power jump of 46% in January of this year compared to January of last year, going from 1.5 million megawatt hours to 2.2 million megawatt hours. That is a huge amount of energy. It's amazing the grid could take that much of growth in, a single year.
I wonder if that administered by the Texas Railroad Commission, like everything else is, oil and gas.
Well, they got this group called ERCOT,
Yeah,
and
right. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
yeah, and it controls all of the electric companies because there's all kinds of electric companies in Texas. They have this sort of deregulated
yeah, yeah.
power
Which
industry
is which
there.
is which is why they've had all the problems they've had. But
Yeah, and that's probably a lot of it. But yeah, it's just amazing how much is going on there. Texas grid, Texas is a grid almost entirely of itself. 90% of the state comes under ERCOT.
right. Except for
Um,
I think for except like out in El Paso and some of those really far, western parts, I think they're part of a different grid system. But yeah, most of Texas, yeah.
they expect those 22,000 megawatts, which that's a 7,000 hour increase from, or a 7,000 megawatt hour increase from the year before. They expect it to grow another 8,000 megawatt by the end of the year to 30,000.
Yeah, you're starting to wonder now, when does solar and wind surpass the what do I want to say, the revenue output of oil and gas?
So let's see, because I think the article does discuss this. Let me see if I can find that because it did mention when it passed up nuclear.
Well, that's
And
that's easy.
yeah, well, I don't think they do as much nuclear there as
You
one thought. They
got to
pat.
have
Oh,
access
so
to a lot of fresh water.
wind surpassed nuclear in 2014 and exceeded coal-fired generation in 2020.
There we go.
Yeah,
We're they're headed towards supplanting, maybe is a better word, even the famed Texas oil and gas industry. I bet at some point.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, Texas has the Permian Basin, and they're a huge part of all the oil extracted in the United
Hmm.
States. It's
Yeah.
the nation's number one oil and gas producer. It was 42% of crude oil and 27% of natural gas.
Yeah, I drove through the western part. No, it'd be the eastern part of New Mexico where you drove. We drove from Texas, and we drove up, to Carlsbad and that area. And as we're driving through that western part of the Permian Basin, you could smell the natural gas and the petroleum in the air. Just I wouldn't want to. Well, as long as the wind were blowing away from me, I'd be happy. But I mean, it's beautiful country, but
Yeah. Well, we've all heard how EV sales are cratering, and how people are stopping by in
Really?
them. Yeah, I mean, I hear this all the time. I see news all the
Where did
time.
you read and hear that?
In the comments section on my
Oh
videos
yeah,
on
I
YouTube. I
know.
mean, people let me know all the time that people are stopping buying EVs, EVs
Yep,
are
yep,
dying, and
yep.
I heard that such and such has
Uh-huh.
stopped selling, and the truth is, like Germany stopped subsidizing EVs and they're still hitting month over month, year over year record numbers. It's just not growing as fast as it was,
Yeah.
but this is interesting. So global EV sales for January of 24 took another all-time record. And let me see. So it broke the sales record for January. A company called Row Motion crunched numbers, came with a record-breaking sales pace of 660,000 EVs sold globally in January. That was 12 months ago in 2023.
Okay. Right.
69% increase this year
Since
to
then.
break 1 million. So it broke 1 million in January of 24.
Yeah, that's really slowing.
Yes. Yeah, and let's see. In the EU, UK, and EFTA, not sure what that is, sales have grown by 29% year over year, 41% in the USA and Canada, and doubled in China. So 200% growth in China.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Germany EV sales halved month over month following the end of the subsidy. However, year over year sales increased by 40%. And in France, EV sales halved month over month, but saw a 20% increase year over year.
Yeah.
So I guess it's depending on where you're picking your statistics, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's something with
Exactly.
statistics. People always look to pick the statistics that go
With their
most
argument.
right.
Yeah.
And you know, it's it's interesting sometimes to see where some of those numbers. I mean, a million EVs in the month of January. Um, anyways, what do we got here? So,
Well,
it'd be interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting to always hear those arguments about how everything's slowing down and at the same time it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
So,
can can I make a comment about the way government should be?
oh
This,
God,
I
I
came.
don't know.
No,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
know.
no, no, no. This is good. This is good. Have you ever been to Hoboken?
Oh, no, I have not. I know it's
Okay.
in New Jersey.
Right, yeah, it's a little community right across the river from Manhattan. Okay, it's a nice little community actually. And my daughter had a friend who used to live there, and when my daughter lived down in the Princeton area when she was going to school there. So that there's a councilman there named Paul Prezano, I think, something of that nature. And they've obviously, if you follow anything having to do with electric batteries and that whole type of thing, they've had this issue. Well, two issues. Number one, they have these guys that riding around on electric bicycles delivering food. Okay,
Hmm.
and those electric bicycles, some of them have been prone to catch on fire. In fact, they just had another fire the last couple of days.
Doesn't that keep the food warm?
Yes, exactly. No, this was when the battery goes up in smoke.
Okay.
Okay, and so they had a journalist there in New York who was killed, and a bunch of people injured in one of these battery immolates, and people are get smoke and all kinds of problems, and people are injured. So this councilman there in Hoboken decided they said, well, we got to pass regulation, we got to pass things to control these bikes and so on, which is a big move over across the Hudson there in New York City. So what he did is he said, now before I decide to vote on anything or we create any legislation, what I want to do is I want to, pardon the expression, walk in their shoes for a while. So he took a job as a Uber Eats food deliverer, riding an electric bicycle around Hoboken, okay, to get a sense and a feel for what the people that are actually doing the delivery and what are their issues and what are the things they're having to put up with um, before making any kind of legislation. And I thought, no, I don't think they've reached anything yet. But I thought, now that is the way government should be run. If you're going to pass legislation, walk in somebody's shoes for a while, right? Or in this
That just
case,
doesn't seem realistic for government.
well, no, of course not. There's things you can't. But in this particular case, on a local urban basis, that's what he did. And I thought that that's ballsy on his part. He's from New Jersey anyway. So, but I just, I thought that's
No,
exemplary. That's
yeah,
really
that is
exemplary.
pretty cool. That is pretty
Yeah.
cool. It is sometimes hard to fathom because so many laws are passed that result in unintended consequences,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and there's plenty
Well,
of them that
it's
the
it's
United
one thing
States
to
has.
have hearings, right? I mean that you have to have public
Hmm.
hearings. People come in and share their views, and that's part of the process. It's sometimes boring, it's sometimes frustrating, but it's part of the process. But I just thought this was so unique that the guy takes a job, right? Temporary, of course, takes a job to to ride, there alongside an Uber Eats delivery guy to learn the ins and outs of the business, and then to make his understanding of how we draft equitable legislation, positive legislation, um, by actually getting his hands dirty in the
Yeah.
process. So I like that. Anyway.
Yeah. And responding to Joe in the chat, one of the things is if you add a bigger battery, your e-bike will go a lot faster. And so that's a big reason why a lot of people do that,
Yeah. Um,
and
yeah,
if,
unless you don't know a damn thing about what you're doing, because that technology is complicated and it involved little microchips and boards and things to run the BMS and be matched to the input and the output voltages and the temperatures of the batteries and the voltage, all this stuff. That's complicated. I wouldn't want to attempt it. You have to know what you're doing, and even sometimes people who do know what they're doing have had problems, and their shops catch fire and
right.
things like that. So this is not something that just the average Joe. Oh well, I want to go further. I'm gonna put a bigger battery on my bike. No, no.
Yeah. Well, we all get it. It's a people want that, but we've had several bike manufacturers, or they're more in the motorcycle space, come on, and they talk about they only buy from reputable battery
Yeah,
makers because
yeah,
then they don't have fires, and you
yeah.
don't you very rarely hear of a Cattle battery or an LG battery catching on fire. It's
Right.
always
Yep.
these bizarre cheap brands, but nobody really talks about that part you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I had something that was kind of funny that came across one of my feeds today that was talking about it's in the AI space, but I thought that was interesting because there's this company called Rad, which makes solar powered security towers. And
Mhm.
I thought this was kind of interesting. So this company is traded OTC, and they trade as AITX, which is called Artificial Intelligence Technology Solutions. And their subsidiary is called Robotic Assistance Devices, or RAD. And it's kind of interesting because they make this AI generated robot called the T2000. No, I'm just kidding. It's not called the T2000. It's probably just as scary. One is called the Rad Dog LE, and so here is so you climb over a fence. You're trying to steal some stuff in some yard somewhere, and you start getting chased by this. Get
Oh
chased by
yeah,
the
there you go.
by the
Yeah.
Rad Dog. Yeah, I thought, oh, that's
Now, does
you
the
just
Rad
see.
Dog have a? fight of some kind?
I don't know. It hasn't
Or you just
gotten
take your
into
picture
that part
and
yet. I think that, yeah, this was the only picture that was included with the article. But the thing that they were really bringing in the article was about supposed to be about their security towers. And I was just trying to picture, because when I used to live in Memphis, we had this shopping mall called the Mall of Memphis, which was also called the Mall of Murder. And
ooh,
they had these guard towers that were elevated up in the parking lots. There was like four of them around the place so that
like a
somebody could sit
prison.
up there with binoculars and they could
Yeah,
watch it. Look more like a prison. You know,
yeah.
they eventually bulldozed. They had so much crime, they ended up bulldozing the damn mall. But this is what the device looks like. And I'm sitting there looking at these. So you've got this, you know, you've got cameras up here at the top, and it doesn't
Right.
really give a great picture there. But it's got the solar panels down here, and these are 360-degree cameras, so they point all the way around. I'm sitting there thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I can just imagine somebody coming through and smashing those things at night.
Well, I can see somebody stealing the panels. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Load them
man.
back to the pickup truck.
Yeah, but obviously you can, they're on wheels here, they roll around. But I thought this was pretty interesting. But the, company is beginning a production run of 1,000 of these solar-powered security towers, and it's interesting because they got something going on with CB Richard Ellis and some others here that they must have a market for these. But
Yeah.
I thought, but they also, then I guess if the cameras pick it up, then they send the rad dog after you. You know, I can just see you being chased through the parking lot by this robotic dog.
Well,
But anyways, that was all I had. Unless you had something else you
yeah.
wanted to cover today.
Let me add one more comment. I noticed that on the yesterday you were talking about some stocks.
Hmm.
And we talked last week. I asked you, should I buy Rivian or not? Right? Since they
Hmm.
had hit such a low point. And over the weekend, I came across an article where it says, the stock had collapsed. I think it was $10.07.
Right. It really plummeted on their news
Yeah,
after
yeah,
earnings.
right. Well, yeah, they laying off 10% of their workforce. And then this latest interview with Jeff Lutz to see where they are in terms of their cash flow and all that kind of thing. One wonders, but at the same time, Herbert says, well, he still thinks that it's a company that's got a good product, it's got a great reputation with consumers. They have to obviously figure out some of the manufacturing hell that Elon warned them about. Um, but I thought, I've got this account with a online trader. I won't say who, and it was an investment I had made, wow, over 10 years ago, and it was based on advice of a guy that basically a stranger who said, yeah, you ought to buy this one. It's really going to go. Nah, it didn't. And I gradually watched my money get less and less and less in the account. And so finally got to the point to where I just said, look, just sell the dang thing and I'll keep whatever money's left. So over for the last 7, 8 years, whatever it is, the company's been sending me monthly statement on how much money is in my account. And I was like, yeah, nothing, I'm not going to fool with that. So Saturday I thought, you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna take that as my mad money since
Hmm.
it's one of those things that hell, I haven't been using it for anything anyway. It's just sitting there and buy some Rivian stock.
Hmm.
So
Now that
over
it
the
said
weekend,
$10.
so over the weekend, I bought 30 shares of Rivian stock, and dang, wouldn't you know it, it's trading over 11 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
I made money.
on technical analysis, Now, the one thing is that was technical analysis done before earnings. And one of the things that Deeb will say, he doesn't ever, he always exits everything before earnings.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to be in anything when the earnings are going on because it can be so crazy. And
Mhm.
sometimes the way the stock goes after earnings, even if they hit their numbers, sometimes the numbers it'll still go down. If there's
Yeah.
one thing that people pick out of the whole announcement that was negative, all of a sudden it'll
And then
drive
it's
down
not close.
sentiment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it can be really awkward just seeing how that plays out. And so, anyways, I don't know. The advice we've given a couple people who bought Rivian at a strange time, just, hey, dollar cost average back in. That's
Yeah.
really all you can do.
Yeah. That's all you can
Buy
do.
some more
That's what
and see
I'm
where it
doing. Well,
goes.
I don't have any more to invest. That as
My thing is with a couple of the companies. Okay, Rivian has issues like any other manufacturers. Hard to imagine coming into manufacturing in the car business of all things. Car sales are tough right now because interest rates are high.
Mhm.
So they've done what they've managed to do. So their commercial vans sort of sit outside the, where the consumer space is at, right?
Right.
They make money on every commercial van. Okay. Now, if interest rates were still 3-4%, then they'd probably be selling a whole lot more cars or trucks and SUVs. Okay, they get good reviews on their products. People that own Rivian seem to
Yep.
really like them,
Yep.
and so it's only a matter of time before they start selling enough to be able to make money on them.
Yep.
And
And
so that's part of the challenge right now.
yeah, and that's the interesting thing. The interview that I watched just before we came on with Jeff Lutz, he's talking about that. They just have to figure out how to get past this, and if they can get past this, they're going to be they'll survive. So, and of course, Elon's told him the same thing. You gotta get things in hand. You got to cut those costs, and you got to be strategic about how you do it. So the other thing he mentioned, though, which is interesting, he says Tesla came through this valley of death,
Right.
back in the 2014-15 area, because in part because interest rates were low.
Interesting. And
And so,
I haven't heard Elon talk about that, but that
yeah,
does make
and
sense.
they came through because interest rates were low. And now, of course, we're in this 7, 8, whatever it is, interest rate regime. And that makes, as you point out, that makes it harder. So they had that going for them. Of course, they got a bunch of, federal money, and selling environmental credits to the car companies and that kind of thing. So that helped them, and Rivian hasn't had that advantage. So
Oh,
it'll be
that
interesting to watch.
yeah. But
I'm
it's just
ready.
like I say about Lucid as well. So Lucid has the benefit of being predominantly owned by the Saudis, and
Yeah,
they're putting more money in so that Lucid builds cars in Saudi Arabia. I just don't see the Saudi royal family letting that fail. I see them keeping that as a pet project.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And Amazon, is a big investor in Rivian. I think they own 1/6 or 1/8 of the company, something like that. And they've only delivered, I think, like a third or something like that of the Amazon van order. So that's going to keep going on. I don't
yeah.
see Jeff Bezos easily
And
letting
and I
that go
and,
under.
and I think they got permission also from Amazon to go ahead and rather than make that an exclusive deal, only sell the vans to that. I think they've gotten permission to go ahead and open that up to other
Right.
companies. So
No, they
yeah,
are taking orders from other
we see from
organizations for them.
here. What is it? About 5 miles that direction is a great big huge Amazon warehouse, and they got great trucks pour out of there every day and cruise these neighborhoods. So yeah, we got
Oh
them
yeah.
here.
No, we've got them here. That's right. Anyways, Bill, that's all we
All
got
right.
for today. Thanks
Thanks a lot.
for
My
thanks for
pleasure.
watching,
Hope
folks,
everybody
and
enjoys
have a
them.
great day.
Bye
All right.
bye.